production of Ruckus is made possible through the generous support of Dave and Jamie Cummings, the Hartwig family, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. Welcome to Ruckus, our weekly food for thought fight over the news of the day and the trends of the times. I'm Mike Shannon. The Ruckettes join me shortly, and our topics this week: school finance now back in the court. Religious freedom legislation gets a mixed reaction in Missouri's Court of Public Opinion. And two opinion writers opine a final time in the Kansas City Star, plus roast and toast. But we start with our Newsmaker segment and talk about this year's observance of 7 days, a project that evolved from the tragic events of April 2 years ago, when 3 people simply in the process of living life and bothering no one were shot to death at the Jewish Community Center and Village Shalom in Johnson County. Joining us today to talk more about the project and how you can get involved is Mindy Corcoran, whose son and father were 2 of the victims. Mindy, welcome to Ruckus. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you, Mike. It's nice to be here.
The slogan or the website has this on it: make a ripple, change the world. How do you make a ripple?
You make a ripple by taking an action. And anyone can take an action of, you can call it paying it forward. We're calling it an act of kindness. So also the ripple in the symbolism of a ripple is to emulate kindness. Right now we have symbols for love, a heart, peace. There's several different types of symbols for peace. Judaism, Christianity, Islam, they all have their symbols. There's not really a symbol for kindness. So we feel like the ripple and the effect of what kindness can do, that the ripple can become the symbol of kindness.
There's a strong interfaith component to this observance, is there not?
Yes, there is, very much so. The man who killed my dad and Reed,
virulent anti-Semite.
An anti-Semite, and he was raised with fear. He was raised to hate, never taught anything different or given the opportunity or culture, no information about other faiths. He was taught to hate others who were not like him. After
the tragedy at the Community Center and Village Shalom, your family and the Lamano family apparently joined forces to create this 7 Days project. Walk us through the project. How did it happen?
The project started when really the Jewish faith, the Jewish community wrapped their arms around us, totally. The Lamanos come from a Catholic background and, you know, Catholic faith, and we come from more of a Methodist faith. I was raised in a Presbyterian church and Methodist, and as you said, you know, 3 Christians were killed. They weren't Jewish, but the Jewish community wrapped their arms around us and asked us, several key people who I know asked, how do you want to celebrate this? How do you want to commemorate their lives in a year from now? And we were asked that in the summer of 2014, clearly in the grieving process, very deep in just trying to walk to the mailbox every day. And when that was presented to us, we looked at each other and said, well, we don't want someone else commemorating our family members. Right. We want to do it. So we joined hands and started creating the event. There
are numerous events taking place during this 7-day period that begins April the 12th. What are some of them?
There are several. It's definitely got a lot of arms and legs. On April 12th, we open with a rabbi from Jerusalem. His name is Rabbi Alon Goshen Gottstein, and he's from Israel. He founded Elijah Interfaith Institute. And you'll hear the word interfaith a lot throughout the week. So what we're looking for is people to find a safe environment, which is what we're providing at Rockhurst High School on the 12th, a safe environment to come and learn about what is interfaith. That starts April 12th. Fast forward to the 14th, and we're bringing in a man who's not a theologian, but a Christian. He was affected by the Charleston shooting. His sister was killed in the church in Charleston. He's a former senator from North Carolina. Malcolm Graham will be speaking, and he's speaking at the Church of the Resurrection. Then we go further into Saturday, and we've got an interfaith youth workshop, and we're focusing on high school students. The high school students, the elementary kids in school, are already mingling with people of other faiths. And so it's just another opportunity for them to learn how to have those conversations and how to meet people and understand what other faiths are. I'm not trying to recruit anyone from one faith to another, and I tell people that. when we talk about other faiths and we talk about our own faith, we become stronger in our own faith. And it's a joy to learn how other people find their spirit, find God in their life and in their practices.
A couple of quick questions, Mindy, before we wrap it up. All of these events are open to anybody who wants to attend?
Every event that is on the website is open to the public, and there's no charge except for the walk. So the Peace Walk is where the whole community can come together. And we have a permit for 5,000 people. So the Overland Park Police have said we can get up to 5,000 people. We had 3,300 last year. That is a cost of $10. So that's the only objective, and we are looking for registrations now so we can be in preparation for that.
And to find out about where these events are and when they take place, you have a website.
Yes, we do. www.give7days.org.
Do you have any underwriting, any sponsorships?
We do. We have underwriting from Community America Bank. They're a large sponsor, and Liberty Fruit. They're two of our highest sponsors. Our foundation from last year had assets, and so Faith Always Wins Foundation is a financial sponsor as well. All the sponsors are on the website.
Got to stop it there. Thank you very much for coming in. A pleasure to meet you.
Thank you, Mike. A pleasure as well.
That is Mindy Corcoran with the 7 Days Project. Now let's meet the panel and start a ruckus. Jason Grill is a senior advisor at Paris Communications and the founder of J. Grill Media. Marianne Murray Simons is a freelance writer and consultant. Patrick McInerney is a former prosecutor, now in private practice with Denton's in Kansas City. And Ron Freeman is the former executive director of the Kansas GOP, now a motivational writer and speaker. Welcome to all of you. Good to see you again. Thanks for coming in. A lot to talk about. Let's get going. The ping pong match between the legislative and judicial branches of the Kansas government continues with a June 30th deadline looming. The state Supreme Court says the legislature's school finance plan fails on 2 counts, equity and adequacy. Is the money distributed fairly, and is there enough money being spent overall? The current case is about equity. The revised legislation provides more money for some districts, but guarantees no district will receive less than already committed. So now the state Supreme Court will take another look. Supporters say the plan is the solution. Critics say it only makes things worse. The judges threaten to block schools reopening in August if this revision falls short. So based on your experience with Kansas politics, how do you see this controversy in Kansas being resolved, or will it ever be resolved? Ron?
Well, I don't think, it will be resolved, but not permanently. I think it's one of those things where, what are you going to do with it? What is equity? I mean, at what point do you say, if Johnson County's, creating this much revenue, and you got to distribute it across the state, and then you compromise their ability to deliver the quality education they're used to, where's fair? And I think that's where the problem is. And so whoever's in charge, Supreme Court, legislature, there's always going to be a fight. And it's typical class warfare. It's where, well, the poor don't get this, the rich shouldn't have to do that, and so it goes back and forth. It's unending.
In the metro area, it seems that some of the wealthier school districts in Johnson County are getting more money, and a relatively poor one in Kansas City, Kansas, gets no more money.
Property taxes are the bigger factor there. I mean, and there's more tax revenue in Johnson County.
The local option budget.
Right? Because in Wyandotte County, you don't have nearly the access to the kind of capital that you need in property taxes.
So is it even humanly possible to have equity in a diverse state like Kansas is? Johnson County on the one hand, Western Kansas on the other. How do you establish equity?
Right. Well, how do you? Is it fair to say to Johnson County, you got to take money from your county revenue to Wyandotte? Is that fair?
Well, or to Western Kansas, which has been happening for years.
Exactly.
Yeah, it just is about rethinking the entire program and putting out legislation after talking about it for 48 hours and just sort of throwing it out there before their spring break was ludicrous.
Right.
I agree with my state rep, Melissa Rooker, who said we need to throw it out and start over again. And
But you had a June 30th deadline.
I understand. I understand.
The Supreme Court has made no bones about it. Schools aren't going to open. Yeah. And I mean, if there's a bigger hammer, I don't know what it is.
Well, and people won't stand for that happening.
Nobody. And the problem is that the perfect is the enemy of the good here. And so I think there was a bum rush to get anything done that could be considered, whether it was equitable or not. They're just kind of checking the box.
You know how many judges on the state Supreme Court in Kansas have been appointed by the current governor?
I don't know.
1 out of 7. Do you think politics may enter into this to some extent?
I think politics always enters into things in Kansas these days, to be honest. The thing that's amazing is that they did this in 48 hours. They weren't allowed any amendments to the bill in Kansas. I mean, in Missouri, I mean, there's a process. It doesn't seem like there's much of a process, legislative process, to get a bill passed in Kansas. It's a short, let's throw it out there and let's do it.
And this was legislation by fear. I mean, it was everybody looking over their shoulder.
The court's coming after us.
Well, I do want to ask about that, and I think Mary Ann brought it up, or one of you did. The court says either resolve this to our satisfaction or we won't allow the schools to open. Question. How does that serve the students of Kansas, and how does that serve education, Jason?
It doesn't. That's the thing, and I don't think that'll happen. I mean, I think we would all agree it's not going to. They're not going to close down schools in Kansas.
Voters won't let that happen.
Yeah. Right.
They want their kids in school. They're not going to stand for
how
summer
would the
school.
court enforce its edict?
Really good question, Mike. I don't know the answer to that.
Should there not be some judicial deference to the elected branches of government?
No. Because we live in a system.
Supreme Court seems to believe that it should.
We live in a system where the ultimate arbiter of the law is the court. And the court is the ultimate check on, in this case, a legislature failing to do its job and not stepping up and literally doing its job.
Failing to do its job by an impossible definition of what is sufficient according to the state constitution that no one can figure out.
And we have to send it back to the court to figure out where that line is. We just don't know at this point.
And there's spring break, right? Or we get a month off now.
Yeah,
Does the court have the right to shut down the schools?
That's a great point.
That's absurd.
Well, how does it enforce that edict?
Right. Well,
I mean,
I guess you have to start
it's not going to
throwing
go out
people in
there
jail.
and stand at the doors and keep students from coming in. Do you think part of the problem, Ron, is that the legislature and the governor are looking at expanded ways to impeach judges in Kansas?
Oh, there's definitely contention there. No question at all.
So you don't see this being resolved easily, or what do you think is going to happen? You think the court's going to send this back?
At the end of the day, they're going to get the exact same amount of money they got last year, right?
I think they'll continue for another year, and I think during that 1 year period that this is in force, the courts will make a decision about what needs to happen, and I hope greater minds move forward with a new plan.
In a cash-strapped state, how much more money can the courts demand that the legislature provides?
Well, another $36 million is what they're saying.
So they want the answer to be higher taxes?
They want the answer to be equitable funding, and if that means revenues, if that means whatever it means,
and ultimately a good education for students in the state of Kansas.
All right, we've educated folks enough about this topic. It is not just Kansas that incites controversy; its neighbor to the east does a pretty good job too. For example, take the Religious Freedom Amendment. If approved by both houses of the Missouri legislature, it will go to voters this fall. The amendment would allow certain businesses and organizations, such as bakeries and florists, to refuse service to same-sex couples based on religion. Opponents think such an amendment would hurt Kansas City and Missouri's opportunities for convention and tourist business. Supporters say the amendment, though, is narrowly crafted and only designed to ensure people's religious liberties. So if Missourians approve this amendment, what do you think the consequences are likely to be, Patrick?
I think the consequences are, and all the chatter lately is about business impact, right? And it all translates into, what economic impact. We heard the Sports Commission the other day say, hey, we're looking at losing out on big sporting contests and revenue or whatever. But back up for just a second and think about what this argument is. This is the same argument that was raised after the '64 Civil Rights Act, right? That there is a religious right to discriminate, and that's really what it is. And it's not narrowly crafted. It is schools, it is charities, it is hospitals, it is nursing homes, but there's no inspection on that side about what religious freedom means. So I mean, this is really yet another example of the Missouri legislature focusing on who people love rather than who they hate. I mean, wouldn't it be a great day if they took aim at people who expressed hate the way that they take aim at people who express love?
Ron, do you see any sensible reason for this to even be considered?
I think the real challenge here is that when you've had people sued because they didn't want to do a wedding cake for, is that really something that, I mean, the difference between the black experience, if you will, we were denied things when, other options weren't available. Pardon me. Sure. But so when you look at the situation, and if I can get a cake over here, I'm not being denied anything. And yeah, do we want to put a law in place that's going to put undue burden on people? No. It needs to be thought out. But to say, that it's okay to sue someone because they don't want to,
you can get a cake down the block, but yeah. We're talking about the power and prestige of the government, of the Missouri Constitution, behind discrimination.
It's legislating discrimination.
Patent discrimination.
Yeah.
Marianne, if you're in business to serve the public, don't you want the public to be able to come in and buy?
Exactly. Exactly. Why would you do that to yourself in the name of a very few people who have an agenda that they're trying to forward through this legislation?
Can we for 2 seconds, I'm sorry, but can we for 2 seconds talk about the non-economic issue?
I mean, only if you want to keep Jason from having a chance to say anything.
I'm concerned about the economic issue.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, Patrick.
Yeah. Well, I mean, how about the moral issue, right? I mean, we're talking about something that has its roots in the fundamental principles that we talk about when we talk about this country, and when we talk, and our Constitution forbids this kind of discrimination. It forbids it. The Equal Protection Clause forbids it, right? Like President Johnson said when he signed the '64 Act, morality forbids this.
Public accommodations law.
Right.
That deal with the same
Mike,
thing.
why are we doing this in Jeff City? What's the
Well, I don't know.
Seriously, like, are we trying to just push out everything?
Well,
These people at the Sports Commission are working on bids for years out. If this goes to the voters, it's delayed. They can't get more tourism dollars. It's $50 million in revenue, or $30 million in revenue, $50 million in economic development just for Kansas City. We've seen Georgia, the governor vetoed that. Indiana lost. 60
but
million.
This can't be vetoed. This will go to the people,
right.
And the only way it can be reversed is another vote, another amendment.
I feel like we're going back in time here. Like, I really do.
So what's the rationale for Republicans who introduced this? Are they just evil?
I'd have no idea, because all of the pro-business Republicans cannot vote for this, because every moderate Republican would be nuts to vote for this.
It just exposes this giant divide between urban and rural factions, right? I mean, look at the e-tax, right? Look at the e-tax issue. That is nothing more than a split between urban and rural. And it's not class, it's not anything other than geographic. And that war continues in Jeff City every single session.
Ron, some people say this is a reaction by those putting this bill forward, this amendment forward, in opposition to the Supreme Court ruling on gay marriage. Right. Do you think that's what this is?
I think it's absolutely that. It's part of that whole, it's a knee-jerk reaction to a situation. And here's the reality, is that anytime you try to, quote unquote, legislate morality, anytime you try to control people by legislative fiat or even by the vote of the public, you end up creating an unnecessary backlash, and that is people moving to Kansas, that is corporations. I mean, you've got the NFL, you've got NCAA, NASCAR is saying,
Walt Disney.
It's like, wow. What do you think? What are you picking a fight for?
Just to explain where this stands now, before we move on, the Kansas Senate has approved this amendment. The Missouri Senate has approved this amendment. It goes to the Missouri House. At this time, as far as we know, the Missouri House has taken no action. Right. If the House approves it, it bypasses the governor and goes on the ballot in November, and the Missouri public will vote on it.
Yes.
And it would change the Constitution. It's not a law that can be overturned or vetoed. It requires another amendment to replace it.
That's true.
Okay. Two more long-term Kansas City Star editorial writers are leaving the paper, and each offered readers one more column. Barbara Shelley wrote about what we were just discussing, what she sees as wrongdoing by the Missouri and Kansas legislatures. Steve Paul, the editorial page editor, reviewed his current thoughts about two matters yet unresolved: KCI's future and how the downtown streetcar system will perform. Let's talk first about the airport. Steve has changed his mind, now believes a new facility is imperative. He writes, "Let's not get sidetracked by the negativos and their red herrings. Let's prove once again that when the city comes together to design and build, it can do so for the ages." So our first question, Jason. Are you a negativo, and what is a negativo?
I am not a negativo, Mike.
What is a negativo?
I do not think we should. I think we should rebuild KCI. I think it's a no-brainer to me. I mean, the costs are the same pretty much. They're not going to raise taxes to do this. The fees are going to go up maybe slightly. They haven't gone up in other cities that have rebuilt or built $1 billion airports. We got to start looking forward in our city and quit putting bandages on projects and start developing for the future. And that's the first thing everyone sees when they come to our city. Do we want them to see I mean, you've been around the United States. It needs to be updated, or it needs to be renovated, or it needs to be rebuilt. But I think you should rebuild it at the same cost as renovating.
I think you're exactly right.
One of the principal critics of the plans to build a new KCI is Congressman Sam Graves, whose district includes KCI, 6th district in Missouri. And he's been opposed for quite some time. Do you know what the basis is for his opposition?
I think it's political. I mean, we've talked about that in almost every conversation we've had today. His mind can probably be changed. I think he needs to be educated. There's been some misinformation coming out of his staff that has been clarified. And maybe it's an opportunity for those who are moving the project forward through the city and through other means to sit down with the congressman and have that conversation. But I agree with Jason completely. It is the gateway to Kansas City. And we need to have a different look and feel for those who are coming into our city to be able to enjoy everything that we have. And the airport does that for us.
When we used to talk about this, when this first came into the news, people sitting around this table generally seemed to think that the public sentiment was opposed to rebuilding the airport, but rather renovating the airport. Do you think sentiment has changed?
I do. I think, again, studies have come out that have shown the value of replacing the existing airport. It's just not functional in the 3-terminal configuration. And moving to a single terminal with single security access, using the existing runways, but really updating the look and feel of the airport and the functionality of it, which is the biggest problem, is what the city of Kansas City is attempting to do.
Patrick, I know you're tight with Mayor James and part of inside city government. He said at his State of the City address that he wants what the airlines want, I think, essentially, and the airlines seem to want a new airport.
Right. You know, and that's, I think that's one of the upsides of this whole process is that the airlines have been at the table since day one on this. And at a point, policymakers and legislators have to defer to the people that are going to be using it and who really know the best. You know, a little bit of a twist here on the walk-in to what you talked about Barb Shelley and Steve Paul taking off. I think that also, their departure really tees up where we're going to be as a city and what kind of a newspaper we're going to have in this town in 5 years, in 10 years, and what kind of a role, if any, is going to be occupied by people such as they are, who ask hard questions, who are brutal on policy,
who have experience, who've been around for a while and know the city.
And you know, the investigative capacity of the Star is hugely diminished lately, and I worry about that on this issue and a lot of issues.
Ron, we got to wrap this up. Steve Paul, about whom we're speaking, says he hopes the streetcars will do well, or the streetcar downtown will do well. What's your sense of how it's going to do?
I think there's a market for it, but I don't know. I mean, it's all about revenue. How do you fund it? How do you operate it? How does
it's funded
it work
by taxes paid by people who own businesses and live in that district.
And what point does that become a good deal?
And that's a question mark. If people don't like it and it fails to attract people and excite them, what happens to it then? It just still there?
Kind of sits there, and
it's not going to go away.
Yeah, there you go. We got it. So,
but the people who support it, I think, believe it will be the first step into expanding streetcars throughout Kansas City. I know the one attempt failed, but I think the people behind it are going to try again.
You're taping the show from the opening next week, right?
It is time now for Roast and Toast, where the Rockettes praise or haze people and events in the news. And we start this time with Ron.
Mike, I'm going to toast John Kasich. I think he has been a voice of reason in a sea of political chaos with the Republican primary. And in my mind, he should be the guy that gets a nomination. Obviously, it's not going to happen, but he would be the best example for what we want as a leader.
All right, Mary Ann.
Well, I would like to roast our most outlandish presidential candidate, but I'm not going to do that because he's kind of doing it to himself right now. Instead, I'm going to toast CNN and MSNBC for the town hall meetings that they have held on television this week. Their one-on-one interviews with the candidates really gave you a chance to get to know the candidates and understand whether or not that's who you'd like to elect to be our next president. I hope you had a chance to watch.
Patrick.
VML Marketing came up with the best idea for opening any baseball season anywhere in the country with their Relay the Way. It's tremendous. It raises money for the MLB's Urban Baseball Academy. It's it's a tremendous idea, and they've really stepped up and thought completely differently about that process. So Sunday, I'll certainly be watching. I'm really, really excited.
Opening day is Sunday,
Opening
right?
night is Sunday. That's right, against the Mets.
All right.
I was going to roast the Missouri legislature for the Religious Freedom Bill, but I'm going to roast the Missouri legislature for doing nothing on I-70. If you've driven down I-70 lately on the way to Columbia or St. Louis, it needs to be fixed. We need to put a toll road in there. We need to do something. We need to raise our lowest in the country gas tax. It's just not safe, and it's just sad when we look over to our neighbors in Kansas and their highway system, and you see Missouri's on I-70, and it needs to be fixed. We need to do something about it. So hopefully they'll start working on that project.
And finally, brownback haters among us, cover your ears. Because they're all covering their ears. Here comes a toast to the governor who vetoed legislation that would have stopped the unified government from using star bonds in negotiations with the American Royal. The Royal is considering a move to KCK, and the bonds could be an attractive incentive. The legislature tried to override the Brownback veto, but failed. A rare victory indeed for Sam Brownback, and potentially another victory for Kansas City, Kansas. And so that is Ruckus for this time. We are back next Thursday at 7. To comment on the program, email us at kcpt.org/ruckus. Now for the Ruckettes and the crew, I'm Mike Shannon saying thanks very much for watching and good night.
Production of Ruckus is made possible through the generous support of Dave and Jamie Cummings, the Hartwig family, and by viewers like you. Thank you.